Hello everyone, welcome in. Today we will be discussing the latest filing in the Alexee Trevizo case, the Notice of Polygraph Examination. This is a unique occurrence as polygraphs being used in criminal trials is unheard of in the United States outside of New Mexico. Because polygraphs are widely considered junk science, they are not commonly regarded as evidence. But alas, New Mexico has upheld the use of polygraphs in trials. Here's a very standard definition of a polygraph test. Essentially, it is sensing and recording your physical responses to stimulus in the form of yes or no questions. I believe the defense is going to try to use the polygraph to prove Alexee did not intend to kill baby Alex, in turn trying to disprove the first-degree murder charge. So here are a few cases that explain the polygraph process, objections, validity, and purpose. As you see, both parties have to agree to the polygraph and have no objections offered at trial. The last three I find to be very much formalities in regards to the procuring of the polygraph test and are unlikely to get argued necessarily, because whoever Gary had do this polygraph will have met the standards necessary to have administered the polygraph. Which leads me to my next point. As we discussed here before in my video about Alexee's forensic pathologist expert, this is an area of the law with a dark underbelly where, in my opinion, experts get a litigant's business because they are willing to either bend the truth and facts or look the other way. This happens with experts of all kinds. The lie detector test is slightly different as the evaluator is supposed to provide any charts that the defendant takes, meaning you're not supposed to be able to record a few practice tests and then go on the record. So it will hopefully stop people from taking the test until they get satisfactory results. Until an objection is raised, we can operate off the premise that the polygraph will be used at trial to continue to cover our bases. Now, like I said earlier, in my opinion, the polygraph is being used to try and show Alexee did not intend to kill baby Alex. They most likely ask questions like, did the baby show any signs of life? Did you think you were putting a live baby in the trash? Did you mean to harm the baby in any way? With that being said, there are still issues with polygraph examinations. Even the most sophisticated lie detector technology will not enable an expert to testify as to a defendant's past intent. Instead, the most an expert can say is that when the defendant voiced an innocent intent, lie detector technology indicated that the defendant was truthful. The ultimate issue of the defendant's intent does not necessarily follow from this testimony. Also, we do not yet know if the polygraph evidence will be visual or audio. I believe it makes a huge difference. First of all, using a polygraph test as evidence in and of itself is risky, and despite good results, you run the risk of jurors feeling like you're trying to pull one over on them, especially when the evidence pointing to a defendant's guilt is overwhelming. That is because it's common sense to most people that a criminal will say anything to get out of trouble once they've been caught. The jury's perception of Alexee and her defense team will be crucial, and if the jury is only able to hear Alexee answer these questions on the polygraph test, they will be far less likely to believe that she's telling the truth than if they are able to see her demeanor during the test. If she appears confident, well-spoken, sitting still, and unfazed, that would convince them a whole lot more than just hearing her. And again, the results do not allow a testimony as to Alexee's actual intent at the time of the crime, rather not lying about her intent after the fact. Since we are talking about intent so much, we must revisit the statute that Alexee is being charged under, Murder 1, and this is how it describes intent. Intent. Deliberate intention is defined as arrived at or determined upon as a result of careful thought and the weighing of the consideration for and against the proposed course of action. Intent is subjective and is almost always inferred from other facts in the case, as it is rarely established by direct evidence. That means that Alexee does not have to ever say she intended to murder baby Alex for the jurors to assume her intent. And despite her claiming it was not her intent, the jury will be instructed to consider Alexee's actions as indications of her intent that night. If you see here, I pulled the definition over and I made my own paragraph explaining Alexee's actions here in the purple while weaving the wording from intent throughout her actions to show just how the state is going to prove Murder 1 for Alexee. Meaning, Alexee carefully thought about putting the baby in the bag, weighed that course of action against various other courses of action, such as pulling the help cord, responding to one of the many knocks on her door, opening the door on her own accord before a nurse showing up with keys, opening the door on her own accord once she delivered an, according to her, stillborn baby. Since the autopsy shows that the baby was alive, no one knows for sure what Alexee saw from that baby, be it a blink or a finger move, and the jury is allowed to infer from the surrounding facts that Alexee did not put a baby in an open bag, where it would be covered by others' trash but still free to inhale oxygen. Alexee allegedly put a baby in a bag and closed the bag. The jury is able to infer from her actions that she intended to murder the baby, and that is why it is so imperative for Alexee's defense to try and prove that she never thought the baby was alive. Now, from here on out, this is just my opinions on this. In my opinion, it's a slight embarrassment to the judicial process to allow something widely considered as junk science to be used as evidence when the standards for evidence is typically so high. I feel it's very unfair to allow a defendant to essentially speak on their behalf via polygraph while being able to avoid cross-examination. I hope that movies and TV have done their job in shedding light on the fact that polygraphs are unreliable and they have proven countermeasures such as medications and ways to provide a pain stimulus when answering baseline questions that you are truthful about to have a physiological response that matches your body's response to answering untruthfully. When I think about Alexee's polygraph being played out loud in the courtroom, I get very much presenting a book report on the book you didn't read, and the teacher in class can clearly tell you're making it up as you go along kind of feeling. The teacher is more likely to fail you for having pulled that stunt than she would have been if you were honest, and I think it will play out the same way to the jury because of the overwhelming evidence to the contrary of whatever claim Alexee's going to try and make on that polygraph, should it be allowed in. I look forward to the state's response because we can assume they're not going to want this in, and from there, the judge will make his decision. I have a few other videos I'm working on that will be coming out this week in preparation for the evidence to be decided on, and some other things in regards to this case that I will be getting out as soon as possible. Thank you so much for making it this far. If you're interested in following this case to trial, please subscribe, as I'll be covering it all along the way with the focus on the legal aspects. If you have any comments, questions, or concerns, please feel free to leave them down below. I appreciate the conversation, and I do my best to get back to you as soon as possible. See you in the next video. It's your girl Friday. Okay, bye.